Just checking my audio. Can we hear me?
Loud and clear, Commissioner. Well, colleagues, we're at 5 o'clock. We have a quorum. Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Aquila has said that he's not able to be here tonight. I haven't heard from Commissioner Tioka, so we have a full agenda tonight. I'm inclined to get us started on it. County Manager, you have any objection to our starting the meeting now?
No, Chair Thompson, that is fine.
Okie doke. I'm one of those people who likes to get started on time, but we can quit early if we get our work done. That's what I say. So, welcome tonight. This is the work session of the County Board of Commissioners. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion. There is generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome. And my dog has something to say, sorry. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. Let me ask, does anyone have anything to add or comment on about our formal agenda tonight? Okay, hearing no one except my dog complaining about the agenda, we'll consider that agenda good to go forward. We have two topics before us tonight. Oh, good. Welcome, Commissioner Tioka. The Planning Commission appointments, which we expect to take about 10 minutes. That's on page 4 of our agenda. Director Henriksen, can you walk us through this, please?
Yes, I can. Vice Chair Thompson, thank you. So the Planning Commission consists of 7 members that are appointed by your board. Each member serves a 4-year term. On June 30th of this year, we will have 3 members whose terms will expire, and those are the terms of Nadia Gardner, John Orr, and Lum Kwong. Mr. Kwong has submitted an application for reappointment, but Ms. Gardner and Mr. Orr stated that they would not be seeking reappointment. We do have a total of 8 candidates who have applied, including Mr. Kwong. Your board conducted interviews with the applicants on May 23rd, and we have tentatively scheduled appointments for formal appointments at your regular meeting on June 22nd. The new appointees' terms would begin on July 1st and would run through June 30th of 2026. Really, staff is here tonight to answer any questions that your board may have, or if you have any further direction to provide to staff. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have been fortunate to have your support and guidance in this area. It occurred to me as I was looking at our agenda today that the Planning Commission has a couple of tasks, and there is some tension between those tasks. And they are our community engagement body that we're required by law to have. So they listen to members of the public and hear that comment. but they also have the job of applying land use law. And I don't know that we've articulated those specific strains as we go forward, but they occurred to me. So colleagues, I'll open the floor to you. Does anyone have anything to say about either these appointees or those tensions or the role of the Planning Commission? Commissioner Bangs, I see you have your hand up.
Well, I see that we have one incorporated area planning commissioner member term expiring. And I personally am very fond of Katie Pritchard and how her connections and just her breadth of knowledge of our community. And also the fact that she is well connected with the city of Salem and all of the goings-ons there. So I would just be interested in trading one incorporated friend with another incorporated friend. And you know, I just know Katie very well, and I find that she's a very thoughtful person.
Thank you for those comments. I appreciate hearing that. Commissioner Webb, did you have input to make?
Yes, I apologize. I'm having trouble signing on with the audio, so I've had to come in 3 different times, but I'm here now. Yeah, I actually remember that in the early days of the comp plan, when we were doing the early goals, Katie Pritchard was very much among the folks who were coming to our initial meetings and I found a very contentious participant in the consideration of natural resource goals. I also think it would be a good idea to have someone from an incorporated area who is not from Astoria. One of our applicants was from Gearheart, I believe, and I would just think that would be maybe a nice way to have someone give us some urban presence on the commission without it being just one urban place. I think as our considerations for tonight about short-term rental discussions, it would be awfully good to have someone from a part of the county who represents, as I say, a little bit of a different urban voice than we would see in Astoria. Otherwise, I note that Mike Magyar was a member of the Planning Commission before, and it's always nice to be able to have someone with some experience serving on the commission, and I just think it would be a nice idea to have Mike back on the commission. I think those are my thoughts on the subject. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bangs, do you mind if I check in with Commissioner Toyoka first and then come back to you? Thank you. Commissioner Toyoka, would you like to weigh in?
Oh, good evening. Yeah, I was going to let Commissioner Bangs go first, but I will weigh in. We have to decide, appoint 2 people for sure, and then decide whether we are going to reappoint or select someone else for the 3rd position. So that's the state we're in. I do like the applicants who were more open-minded, more community-minded, and basically a broader spectrum of thought process. And some of them I felt had more of an agenda-driven, so I discount those. I want someone who will seek all the information, all the facts, and make a best decision for a community without any advocacy. So that was my line of thinking. I did like Katie. I mean, I thought she was very forthright. I did like a few other, like Jeremy Linder was very forthright, community oriented. I did like Mike Magyar. He was very much stressed that he was not an advocate for any interest, and he has some very good knowledge base in terms of, from his profession as a surveyor. So there's, a lot of factors I think we have to weigh. But I think the overriding factor is we can't have, kind of like Mike Magyar said, no agenda, no advocacy, just people who will, if you want to say advocate for the community, for all the people of Clatsup County in the best interests of everyone and not any special interests. So that's my direction. And that's the way I'm thinking when we're looking at the different members.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Bangs, please.
Well, I just do want to make a comment in regards to, making sure that we're careful not to openly insult folks in a public meeting when they're not here to actually hear that. So decorum, I'm going to circle back to decorum on that. But then circling back to the other applicants, Mike Magyar, I found that, he just seemed very interested in the community. He seems knowledgeable. He has history in the Planning Commission experience. I did appreciate that. I feel Jeremy Linder brings agriculture to the table. Not only is he a farmer rancher, but he also is a small business owner. And so he does have a breadth of knowledge in regards to land planning with agriculture and forestry in mind. He's a very thoughtful person. And I very much respect him and his thought processes. And again, yes, Katie Pritchard again. So those are the three that are on my mind that I find would be very complimentary and offer a wide breadth of experience to bring to the table.
Thank you, colleagues. For myself, I had 4 that I was very interested in. I was grateful to everyone who applied or who reapplied. And I think we need to talk about the fact that we're looking for a community-wide focus with specific experience and background. I love one candidate, Brian Allen, I think said, we're shaping policy, we're not generating it. And I think what that gets to is the relationship between the governing body, the County Board of Commissioners, and the planning commissioners. I think we haven't been as clear as we might have been, and things got a little contentious among the governing body and our appointed public servants. So I like that we're clarifying this. I like Mike Magyar. I mean, he's a surveyor. He knows actually how to set a clear boundary in a legal way, and he provides institutional memory when we are losing some of our institutional memory. So I like that. I like Katie Pritchard very much. I think she's forthright, and maybe it's my East Coast background, but I don't find that contentious. I find that forthright, and so I really appreciate her. Daniel Penley, I liked a lot. As Commissioner Webb points out, he's from Gearheart. That's a different flavor. And I appreciate that an Astoria commissioner is willing to share urban footing with a Gearheart person. What I also liked was that Mr. Penley is associated with IT. When I look at the way we're going to, I want to say, manage economic development and do environmental rehabilitation, I think IT is going to be critical as we go forward into a new economy, because the Planning Commission is about the economy, it's about the environment, all of the, I mean, we've been thinking about this and talking about this specifically for 3 years, the breadth and scope and depth of the law doc. So who can take us forward into the future? Jeremy Linder impressed me, Brian Allen impressed me. I had a bunch of people that I thought would serve well. So I'm looking forward to continuing my own deliberation. Commissioner Bangs?
And I just wanted to make note, I'm pretty sure that we have our maximum contractors on our current planning commission. Is that correct?
That's correct, Commissioner Banks.
He's not a contract yet.
No, Brian Allen is though. Yeah. And And so if he is here listening, or if anybody is with association with him is here listening, I would really like him to continue to allow his application to be in the pool, because I do agree with Commissioner Thompson. He's a very thoughtful man. He has a breadth of experience, but we are maximized on our contractor capacity, I guess you could say. And so, but yes, I just wanted to make sure that I was not misreading something.
You were right. I was wrong. I should have kept quiet. Thank you. That's why I can't put him on my list, because we do have very capable and a full contingent of contractors. You're right about that. Does that give you the kind of discussion that you're looking for, colleagues? Do we need to spend any more time on this, or are we ready to move into the next item on our calendar in the work session? All right.
Chair Thompson, if I might, real quick, just to make sure staff is bringing forth what your board desires in 2 weeks. It looks like there is some agreement regarding maybe 2 of the appointments, and which, just from my listening, there's some agreement regarding Mike Magyar and Katie Pritchard. And we don't have, without Chair Quayla here, we're not sure about what his are. So just when we bring this back in 2 weeks, just know that it won't be a completely fleshed out list, that your board will still have the opportunity to finalize that. So thank you.
Refined and made efficient. Commissioner Teoka?
Is also, we need to include in that discussion next time is, do we retain or do we replace the expiring position? Is it an automatic update, or do we consider a new member?
I have never seen it to be automatic. And I was on the planning commission. I don't know if things have changed. County manager?
No, I don't think there's anything automatic. If you're talking about a member with an expired term, they would need to be reappointed. So,
okay. So truly, we're looking at 3 positions.
Yes, there are 3 vacancies, and one is has reapplied. So one current member has reapplied, but your board would have to affirmatively appoint. So you do have 3 vacancies. Yes, Commissioner Toyoka.
It's kind of like corporate America, where you have to reapply for your position, Did you want to say anything further, Commissioner Toyoka? No, you're good. Okay.
And what I will say, Commissioner Thompson, members of the board, is that that's very common within governments, is that you serve your term, and then, because a lot of governing bodies want to really bring in new perspectives, new experience. And so it's a way to continually develop leadership within the community. So.
And I would like to speak to the fact that Lum Kwang has given devoted public service. I hope that he stays engaged. Like Commissioner Bangs, I hope that all of these good candidates would keep their application fresh in our pool, because they really all were very impressive. And thank you for being agreeable to serving your community. County manager, does that send you forward with what you wanted?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, board.
Let's move on now. We have a bittersweet moment here. I am Celtic. I wish we could have a wake where we mourn and celebrate simultaneously. We're looking at a Department of Public Health transition update. Margot, walk us through this, please.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. Good evening, commissioners. It is bittersweet. One could have never told me over a year ago that I would be meeting with you a year and 2 or 3 months later. But we are, and I am so pleased to provide you a couple different updates. I am going to do my traditional COVID update because I haven't done that in a while. And we are still in a pandemic. We are seeing changes. It's still happening in real time. We do have concerns. And so I just want to provide you with that courtesy update on what we're doing, and I'll follow the same format that I have historically. But then I'm also going to talk to you about what's happening with some of our programs, and more importantly, kind of our infrastructure, our relationship, and it segues into some of the questions that were asked during our budget meeting, and really it's about reassuring the community that public health is here to serve and be stewards of the public good, both fiscally and in terms of our program. So I'll start with COVID and also leave time for you to ask any questions that are with you tonight. So COVID, we are seeing more cases. Definitely, we don't have an exact number because reporting positive cases outside of a laboratory or PCR testing venue are not reportable, and at-home tests are considered presumptive. And so we know we're seeing more cases because we're getting those phone calls in our PIC. As you know, PIC is our Public Information Communications Center, and it continues to be open 5 days a week, Monday through Friday from 9 to 12. And we are forever grateful for our volunteers who still show up with their regular shifts to support our operations as long as we need this one to continue. And again, I continue to maintain the position that communication is vital, essential, and the foundation. And so that would be the last of our operations to stand down. When we look at cases and based upon the testing we're doing, we're at about a 20.9% positivity. A couple weeks ago, we were, in the low community transmission category. Many of Oregon's counties now are in high. When I was looking at the trending data earlier today, it correlates with the holidays. We just had a Memorial Day celebration, so we're naturally seeing more cases. And we know that there's more prescribing going on of antivirals as well. And there are what are still being called those breakthrough cases, both in individuals who have had their vaccination series, as well as those who have had 1 or 2 boosters, as well as that additional dose. What I'm most interested in actually in monitoring is the wastewater. Astoria throughout the pandemic has been part of the surveillance system. And everyone flushes their toilet multiple times a day. So it gives us a very good indicator of the prevalence of coronavirus in the community. We are high. It goes up and down. It's in the category of strong, and the highest category is very strong. And what that tells us is that there are a lot of infections in the community. Again, we don't know how long people shed the virus, as well as people can test positive up to 90 days after they've had an acute case of COVID. But again, we're monitoring this. The pandemic is not over. We are seeing more outbreaks happening, and we are seeing some outbreaks again in our long-term care facilities. When I look at the vaccination rates, and particularly the boosters, right? They are relatively high, higher certainly in the residents. And yesterday, our team called all of our facilities in the community to see if we could provide assistance. But again, we have a responsibility, that shared responsibility for the health and wellness of our community to protect those most vulnerable. So we are seeing people wearing masks more. I continue to wear a mask in almost all indoor settings. And we know that it's a very effective mitigation effort on top of being immunized. So I just want to keep that on everyone's radar. We continue to test 3 days a week out at Camp Rylea. We will be transitioning our testing over to our household hazardous waste site. I think by the end of this month. Lisa McLean is our clinic manager. Not only does she see all of our day-to-day operations, our routine public health operations, but all of these COVID operations as well. And she's done an outstanding job maintaining that balance and meeting the needs of the community. We continue to do some outreach, and of course, immunizations, the demand for immunizations and availability is very much out there throughout the community. But we, in the next couple of weeks, should be receiving or having delivered our first mobile public health mobile clinic to Clatsup County. It's very exciting. It's been a wish list for a very long time for public health, not only for our routine operations, but we will be able to continue to respond and meet people where they're at on their streets in communities throughout Clatsup County to do testing and vaccinations, not only for COVID, but for our other clinical operations as well. So that's very exciting. I think the logos have been put on the van and it should be delivered soon. And I want to recognize Director Ted McLean and Dave Diefenbach. They've both been extremely helpful as we've navigated that process for procuring this van. And again, it's a testament of how we've used our COVID resources in a very thoughtful, strategic way, and leveraging resources we have now that we may not have later for the benefit of the community in the years to come. So that's pretty much my COVID update for you at this time. Our communications team does meet again every other week now, and I want to recognize again Tom Bennett and PJ and Jill Quackenbush, who is now the Deputy Director of Public Health. She has kept this communications team intact throughout the pandemic, facilitated the transmission of information, and her team has made sure that any updated new information or reinforcements go out on all of our different mediums and platforms. So that's it on COVID. And before I go into other public health operations, do you have any questions on COVID for me? Yes. Commissioner Webb?
Thank you. Yeah, what is the mobile health clinic? Is it going to have a schedule? How are we going to be launching this into the community?
So I know it's just very exciting for us. So it will have a schedule. We don't know what that will be because that schedule will vary based upon, for example, if we're in school exclusion in February and we want to make sure that we can provide easy access to vaccinations and immunizations for families in their communities. So we could do an evening clinic out in Napa, or we could do an afternoon clinic or morning clinic out in Jewel. It could be parked anywhere in Warrenton or Astoria, Seaside, or Cannon Beach, even Arch Cape, right? So it will change, right? With COVID, I imagine there will be a routine schedule in terms of, one day a week will be in, for example, out in Napa, and then another day a week will be in Astoria for providing COVID vaccinations. We still remain the only no-cost PCR testing for COVID in the county, and so we will continue providing that at our current scale to make sure that there's access to those who have other barriers. So I think the schedule will change. And again, we can do testing. We can do screening with the van and vaccinations. It will have a refrigerator, all of it. So it's pretty nice.
How will it be staffed?
Typically, it will be staffed with one of our nurses, likely, and then one of our staff assistants, and 2 people could go out at a time. It also will have an awning so we can do drive-through as well, so individuals don't have to get out of their car. I think it's about 38 feet is the size of the vehicle. So this is quite historic for public health in Clatsup County, and I think it's just a huge relief for us, and it will be, I think, a relief for the community once they get more familiar with seeing us out on the streets.
Well done, well done.
Thank you.
Well, if bookmobiles are good, public health fans are maybe even better, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Commissioner Banks.
I just wanted to comment that what an innovative thought. It kind of brings me back a little bit historically about traveling nurses. And so I think in a rural community, what a financially savvy thought process to have versus a brick and mortar type situation. I think it is just going to make community health more accessible. I did have a question in regards to our hospitalizations in reference to COVID. How is the hospitalization situation going for us?
Yeah, so I don't know on this given day if anyone has been hospitalized today for COVID, right? That's why they were admitted, or once they've been admitted, they've tested positive for COVID. We're no longer reporting that because it's readily available on our on the dashboards. Our EOC meeting with the hospital, we have not been meeting, which is always a good sign, right? We're not in crisis. Everyone knows their roles and responsibilities, and we have a free flow of communication back and forth. And the hospitals know that if they need anything additional from public health, they can ask. We do have our COVID task force. It is meeting every other week now, and there is hospital representation on the COVID task force. And that's where we provide an update around testing, what's going on, who's going to vaccinate what population. And I know Lisa has been coordinating with our hospitals in terms of, and particularly Columbia Memorial, around the pediatric vaccinations when they become even more available for kids. So we're not doing duplication, we're complementing one another's efforts.
And just one follow-up comment or thought process. I know that you guys in public health are constantly reflecting on what has occurred in the past and how better to face something in the future. And I was just curious if I realize our pandemic hasn't come to a close, or we're still in an endemic, but I was curious about reflections for our future if we are potentially faced with such a public health crisis in the future. And so I was just curious if what have we learned as a county, I guess. And I know that you can't answer that today, obviously, but I would just be curious in meeting minutes or some thought process of problem solving of, what did we learn? What would we do different? And be constantly reflective regarding our learnings that we have had historically, just as a community. So I just was putting that out there. So thank you.
Thank you for that question. And while that could be a whole nother meeting, and I want to be able to share some other information with you, I think it is important to say, yes, we do have minutes from all of our meetings, between our communications meeting weekly, as well as the COVID task force. And for a while, we had a whole testing group that was meeting, that it really is a formative process. We have minutes from all of those meetings, at least since I've come on board. I can't speak for the past. And it provides that opportunity for us to continually evaluate what is working well, where do we need to pivot, what have we learned. I've also had some meetings with, for example, childcare. I've had meetings with some of the long-term care facility administrators. I did some debriefings about 3 or 4 weeks ago to get their feedback. It was extreme. Dan Gaffney was involved with that. Ava Manderson. It was very informative, those conversations, as well as we are now meeting with the superintendents every other week. And it's kind of a good segue your question, because I think one of the added, and it's more than a benefit, it's just, this bittersweet, very challenging time, the strengthening of relationships, those working relationships, is really quite profound. And I'm not using that word casually. Those relationships, which have been like, we call once in a while if we need, are now like, we don't know how we can't not work together anymore. So for example, with our superintendents, we had our routine meeting, but we actually weren't talking so much about COVID. We were talking about another issue that they're navigating in the school setting, but it requires public health, and it doesn't just require clinical side of public health, it required our health promotions education side of public health. So now it's this triad working together, and that agreement that this will continue as a routine operation for us now to address all potential issues of public health significance in the school setting. So that's just a couple examples. In terms of a county-wide debrief, in terms of the pandemic response, I'll defer to our county manager, Don Boone, about what that might look like in the future. I do know OHA is in the process of doing its own debriefs. And so hopefully that's enough of an answer for now.
It definitely is. And I do want to say, I appreciate that relationship you've created with superintendents as a parent who has always been impacted by illnesses that run rampant through school districts. And I'm just going to say the evil word of head lice is a horrible experience as a mother of daughters. But anyhow, I just appreciate that continuing relationship. So thank you for everything that you've done.
Head lice, I'm telling you, is there a parent who hasn't had to deal with it? But here's what I'm thinking of. I really like that question. I like your response, because what I'm thinking about is I'm pretty sure our county manager is looking at policy implications, budget implications, but to the extent we can have a kind of normalized process where we get information that guides us toward the ongoing policy iterations and the ongoing budget implications, so that we're tracking the needs and looking at the resources to address those needs. I think that will help us become the coherent series of complex, adaptive, interactive systems that our world is requiring of us. So I'm pretty sure that's on your to-do list for next week, right, County Manager?
Yes, Commissioner, I thought we would have a special meeting just to talk about that. So no, what I will say is certainly having community-wide input about what worked and what didn't work, because as I know your board knows, this has been a multi-leveled response, and really the state has been a guiding force through it, and allowing counties and cities to have input into their process is important. And then we will also reach out as part of ours to our community partners and stakeholders. But as Margo said, we're still in this pandemic state. And so yes, there's a lot to learn. We need to make sure we document that, share it with the board. And to Commissioner Thompson's point, integrating systems and making sure that we're providing the information so that the policymakers can feel comfortable with the response. That's important.
Okay, anything else on this? Or are we ready to hear what else Margo has to say? All right, Margo.
Thank you. That's actually a segue, and sometimes I just like to work backwards. And as I look at my notes, I thought about doing the whole PowerPoint thing, and then I thought, no, we've had such a I think a fruitful dialogue all along that I would just continue in that vein. But I think this is a good time to work backwards and just highlight some of what we've been able to accomplish while the pandemic has been happening, to make public health better for the public. This Friday, I do have a virtual meeting with the incoming public health director so that we can start to facilitate that transition. The team is ready, the department is ready. Internally, we have things in place. The introductions have begun, but it's an opportunity for us to connect on Friday, for me to be able to answer questions. And again, I have committed to the county to be available and to support this transition so that it is successful for the community, for the department, for all of you, and for our new public health director. And that gets into relationships, right? Like I said, this pandemic has helped to strengthen relationships, and sometimes crisis does that, particularly when we manage a crisis well and we all come together. But it's also provided that opportunity to build new relationships, working relationships in the community, and to look internally at how we as programs want to work together, and where are our common denominators and what brings diversity to the work that we do, because we touch every life every day in Clatsup County in multiple ways. And in most of those ways, it's not seen. And I say it's because we're doing a good job and we're meeting the expectations, not only of what's in statute, but what the public should expect of us. When I came in and the county manager and assistant county manager are aware, I said, we really need to build this infrastructure so that we can respond to any situation, and we can be forward thinking, and we can be strategic. And with your support, we've been able to do that. We have a deputy director of public health, something we have not had in place. And we've really taken the thoughtful opportunity to leverage, and I'm going to use the word capitalize, on already existing assets that we have, growing our organization from within. And we were fortunate that Jill Quackenbush applied for that position. She's been with the county for a long time. She has very strong relationships in the community, and she has transitioned into this position well and continues to learn. And under her purview now are not just the health promotions programs, which include a list of about 7 or 8, but we've moved school-based health into her administrative oversight, as well as WIC. You think, why WIC? It used to be a clinical program, because it's about nutrition and health promotion. And then the school-based health center, which I'll touch on a little bit in Jewel, again, is under health promotions. And so there's just sort of this continuity between all of these programs. And instead of now having them fragmented, they work together, and she in this role can continue to lace that together and be the connector and the facilitator. Our clinical programs are in full swing again. And as I mentioned, Lisa McLean, who's been a public health nurse for a number of years, for public health, but also in this community, has risen to the occasion and the demands remarkably well. It has been challenging getting all of our routine operations up and running again. We've built a whole new nurse team, and I will say, because I have a little bit of history with public health here, it's the strongest nurse team this department, this community has had in a very long time. They are dedicated. They are out in the field. They are that traveling nurse. They are in the clinic, and they have vision and strategy and are leveraging all of their historical experience in carceral settings, in trauma care, in emergency room care, in FQHCs to serve our community better. Environmental health as well. We have an environmental health supervisor manager, that's Lucas Marshall. He brings 15 years of experience in working in other sectors of environmental health to our program. And environmental health continues to grow and expand as our community grows and expands. But now we're starting to find these linkages. For example, the public health preparedness program, one of its requirements is to develop to focus on climate change. And so that's happening in partnership with our environmental health program, because that's also one of the requirements that they need to be focusing on, which circles back to hazard vulnerability analysis. And so what we're doing now is not working just in isolation, but there's a synchronicity and a interconnectedness to the work that we're doing within public health, but in serving the community. There is that equity lens that we're all learning more and more about. And there's a couple ways we're addressing equity, not only in our day-to-day practice, implementing and acquiring this van as part of that. But we took the opportunity to take our regional health equity assessment that was conducted with Tillamook and Clatsup County, and we partnered with the Omni Institute. And over this whole year, we are working with the Omni Institute and our entire department to really rethink and reframe what equity means in terms of our practice, our thinking, our ideologies, and to become more self-aware and to ask each other questions and hold one another accountable, so that when we are serving the public, we are serving everyone and recognizing if we have those unconscious biases. And it's difficult work. Everyone is showing up. You have to be vulnerable and courageous to do this work. And we do it. We meet once a month to do this work. And we're starting to see those seeds that have been planted making a difference. Harm reduction is a program that has been of interest to some. And as I mentioned during our budget meetings, we have just done a whole audit of the program. We are in, I would say, kind of phase 2 of developing a new data collection system. And we have partnered with our IT department, leveraging our technology to build actually a database that will allow us to really collect meaningful information so that we can better understand the populations we're serving, make sure that the continuum of harm reduction care is well informed and evidence-based from the work that we're doing. And so again, that's a collaboration between not only other departments, but between our clinic manager internally and our health promotions program, because that aligns with other things that we're working on, like overdose prevention and the alcohol and drug prevention and education program. The medical team's international dental van that started to partner with us during the COVID pandemic, that's another partnership and relationship that I want to recognize again. Our Lisa McLean has strengthened. They love working with our county. They love serving our county. They want to come back. And they are looking to find more funding so that they can continue to provide mobile dental care throughout our county. They already serve South County at Providence Seaside Hospital. They've been there a long time, but that doesn't reach our whole community. So how can we do that better? We've been through triennial review in spite of the pandemic. We made it through triennial review, and that's something that I wanted to make sure that we accomplished before the new director came on board, because I think this information is very helpful to them. Most of our programs had absolutely no compliance findings and many accommodations, which is just remarkable considering all the distractions. And no surprise, there were some findings. There usually are when you have an audit, and we're currently working on them at this time. And I expect us to be in full compliance by our due dates. One of the things that I've just taken on, because I really care about educating and mentoring the next generation of public health professionals and nurses, is to reestablish all of our affiliate agreements with academic institutions. We only had a couple. We have not, I can't speak for the far past, well, that's not true. I can speak for when I was here previously. I know we held space for students, in the last decade. And then of course, again, the pandemic changed everything. So we now have reestablished 7 or 8 affiliate agreements with Oregon State, OHSU, other nursing programs. We have a partnership with Clatsup Community College already, so that we can provide capstone opportunities, clinical opportunities, non-clinical opportunities to bachelor students, both in nursing and non-nursing, and public health, environmental health, as well as graduate students. So I'm actually really excited about that. I'm happy. It's a great opportunity, our community learning opportunity, and so that's in place again. And again, for me, this is part of the infrastructure development, and also having certain things in place that need to be in place to support the next public health director and their success. The Jewel School-Based Health Center is open. It is not certified yet, and we will be applying for certification with a waiver. There is an open house tomorrow night at the Jewel School for a number of different things, but it will also be an open house for our school-based health center for families to visit. One of our nurses is out there 2 days a week. One of our partners is Clatsup Behavioral Health. And they are out there seeing students. And then I really want to recognize one of Jill's staff members, Abby, who has done a lot of work with youth, but she has also been the leader in developing youth advisory committee that meets regularly and gives an opportunity for youth to inform how they want to approach their health and well-being within an educational setting. And they've even been part of the statewide school-based health center day, where you visit the Capitol and have an opportunity to really learn about how policy, how important it is in making decisions around health and wellness for a community, but for youth in particular. It's a challenging project. I've been saying the Jewel School-Based Health Center is a case study in for many different reasons. It was the initial grants were written in 2018. With a very ambitious vision. And then some of the aspects of that project around planning and development that normally would take place were deferred, or just because of that enthusiasm, were not tended to as closely as they may have been in other circumstances. And so we had to address some of those challenges during implementation. And any of you who have done project management, which I think is most of all of you, that can be challenging. And then we had a pandemic. And then the healthcare environment is in its own challenge, right? It's healthcare staff are very difficult. We've had a really difficult time finding a provider for the Jewel School-Based Health Center, because it's not only a rural community, it's a very isolated enclave within a rural community. And then there have been changes in leadership as well in that community and in that school district. So we are resilient. We are determined. We have almost 5 years into this project. All of us working on it. We're not part of it in the beginning. As you know, I have quite a bit of background in school-based health. I don't know what will become of this project. And I also know that there are never any guarantees. So it's opened, we're moving it forward. We have money set aside in grants that we've been given once we get certified. There are certain requirements for certification, and they are dependent upon getting a provider. Columbia Memorial Hospital, again, is partnering with us in this and trying to support us while they're navigating their own staffing challenges. So we're very grateful for that. So I can't believe we've come this far, because that project was pretty much, everyone thought it was done. And we resurrected it. And so, but I want to recognize everyone in the past, including my predecessor, for his vision for that project. And then the community health needs assessment is in the process of all the data being collated and will be published in the near future. And that will then inform the community health improvement plan. So that's just a little bit, but we have an infrastructure, we have staff, we have passion, we have a really strong team, we have all of your support. And we're here just to continue being good stewards of the public good. And so I'm grateful for all of your support in serving in this role. You never could have told me that I would be back. And I will continue to support this transition in any way that is needed and be available to staff to support just a very successful transition. So happy to answer any questions. And again, thank you.
Well, all I can say is I would like a quarterly update, and I want us to have a minute or 3 or 5 minutes for a bio break before we go into the hearings tonight. We could wax eloquent. We could ask you 1,000 questions. I think it's going to be important for at least my physical comfort that I have a break. Commissioner Bangs, you better talk fast.
It's very fast, but I just wanted to leave today with when you observe office staff, custodians, and staff or faculty in the hallway and their demeanor and interactions with other staff and folks that they work with, leadership is the thermostat for positive culture, and your leadership has been palatable. And so I just want to thank you for your leadership and your guidance throughout this pandemic. So, and your tenure with us.
We could wax eloquent. County Manager, when is that party?
Commissioner, I'm going to have to get an update on that, and I will share that at the regular meeting. So
Okay, fine. We'll do that. But you will be gone. You will never be forgotten, Margot. That's all I'll say. And I want us to take 5 minutes to break before we head into this long budget meeting tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you. Break. All right, we're about to head back into our meeting for 6 o'clock. Thank you, ma'am. Fascinating. I have 6 o'clock. This is the regular session of the Board of County Commissioners meeting. The Board of County Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsup County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, is now meeting in regular session. Clerk of the board, could you call the roll, please?
Vice Chair Thompson,
I'm here.
Commissioner Toyoka,
Here?
Commissioner Webb,
Here,
Commissioner Banks,
Here.
and Chair Quealy is absent.
Thank you. Let's move right into the meeting. Does someone want to make a motion, please, to approve this agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. A
Second.
second, please.
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I,
Aye.
Anyone opposed, please say nay. We do have, in fact, an agenda approved then. All right, let's move on to the proclamation for Make Music Day. So Dave Ambrose.
Hi,
Oh,
I have a short statement to read.
please do.
The Arts Council of Clatsup County is coordinating our first Make Music Day on June the 21st, a celebration of music in all its forms. We have 5 venues identified where musicians of all caliber can come to play and enjoy their passion. Everyone is welcome, whether you are a professional or a person who has never played an instrument or sung before. It's totally free to encourage everyone to participate. From our American roots in Native American chants, Appalachian fiddle tunes, and immigrant songs from far and wide, we fashioned our own blues, jazz, and rock and roll. We wove in Latin and reggae rhythms. We turn on the radio in our car as soon as we turn the key, and we listen not to talk radio, but to music to unite us. Music stirs our thoughts and emotions. Not Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound, but Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. Not We Shall Overcome, but We Shall Overcome. And not In the Land of the Free and the Home of the Brave, but In the Land of the Free and the Home of the Brave. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Colleagues, would someone like to make a motion to approve this, please?
I move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming June 21st, 2022 as Make Music Day and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. So then, let's have this proclamation. In the matter of proclaiming June 21, 2022 to be Music Day, a resolution in order. Whereas Make Music Clatsup County is an annual one-day festival on the first day of summer that celebrates the ability of everyone to make music, presented locally by the Arts Council of Clatsup County. And whereas it is a day of music making in public spaces all throughout Clatsup County, all completely free for musicians and audiences alike. And whereas Make Music Day is inspired by France's national music holiday, Fête de la Musique, that began in 1982 and is now an international phenomenon that takes place on the summer solstice in more than 1,000 cities in 120 counties. And whereas Make Music Day involves musicians, bands, and ensembles from a diverse array of styles and genres, including everything from classical, jazz, and blues to folk, pop, rock, and world music. And whereas on June 21, 2022, Make Music Clatsup County will celebrate its first annual event as people of all ages, musical genres, and ability levels, from students and amateurs to professionals and marquee artists, gather throughout the day in the county to engage in music making. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that Clatsup County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim June 21, 2022 as Make Music Day in Clatsup County, and encourages all community members to celebrate the joy of making music. Dated this 8th day of June, 2022. Dave, thank you so much for bringing this to us. And thank you, Amanda, for your good work on this. All right, we are now on to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda except public hearings or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
Not for at this time.
Not at this time. Okay, then we'll move on. So the consent calendar, has everyone had a chance to take a look at the consent calendar? Any issues with the consent calendar? All right, then I'd look for a motion to approve the consent calendar, please.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, then. The consent calendar is passed. Commissioners' liaison reports. Commissioner Webb, you had some big news to report. Do you want to lead us off?
Certainly. Yeah, we had the groundbreaking for the Northwest Oregon Housing Authority for a new project in the city of Warrenton called Trillium House. 42 units of various degrees of affordability. It's an exciting project, I think, particularly because of the collaboration of so many different folks coming together, and which of course appears to be the only way that one gets affordable housing built. It was a wonderful occasion. The sun shone on us as we used stainless steel shovels to throw dirt into the air. So it was great fun. The other NOAA related report I have is that at Owens Adair, we have a little bit of a emergency going on. There's only one elevator in the building, and that elevator was affected adversely by the electrical outage that happened in Astoria yesterday. And so we have, it's a 4-story building, and we have all manners of people with different mobility levels in the building. So we're working very hard to make sure that if we need to get people out of the building temporarily, we might have to do that. It's kind of the way I've spent the last 36 hours of my life. But we're working on it. The Workforce Development Board, our 5-county organization, is actually going to be meeting in Astoria this month. And if you'd like to be involved in that meeting, it's going to be at the Clatsup Community College. And we're going to be welcoming a new member, Greg Morrill from Burgerson Construction. And if you'd like to attend the meeting, since it's so easy, we meet all over, literally in 5 different counties in the state over the course of a year. And so it's only annually that we do meet in Astoria. And if you'd like to be in attendance at that meeting, I'd love to have you join us. So just let me know, and I can get you the right information.
Commissioner, why don't you just send that around to everybody just to give us,
okay.
Consider that we're saying yes, if we can.
Okay, thank you. That's very nice. And I think that's all I have for today. Thank you.
That's plenty a lot. Thank you for your good work on all those fine projects. Commissioner Bangs.
Good evening, everyone. Just a brief update in regards to Clatsup County Fairgrounds and Expo. They recently hired or are in the process of hiring an interim manager, Jason Brem. He joined us yesterday for our monthly meeting, and fair is coming in hot. It's coming in, and we're very excited to have an old-fashioned fair this year. And so lots of problem solving occurring and lots of great ideas to make sure that this experience is a wonderful and memorable one for our families and for anybody who chooses to come visit us. I'm really impressed with the fair board and all of the activities and efforts that they're going to embrace and create relationships with multiple entities. Good reports have come from their efforts in regards to opening the facility up for regular rides, open rides for our horse folk in the community. And that has recently come to a close because summer months have, our fingers crossed, summer months are coming upon us, and that our November weather will, turn into hopefully June weather here soon. But yeah, just overall really good things to share regarding the works that they're doing there. Other than that, I have a Northwest Senior and Disability Services meeting next week, a child care meeting tomorrow. So no real updates right now other than the fair board. So thanks.
Thank you. That fair is in August, do I recall? You want to tell us the date? Do you have it memorized?
I don't have it memorized. I'm lucky to get through week by week, but it is in August.
Okay, August. So hold your calendars open for that August fair. Fine. Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Toyoka.
No real individual updates, just, a lot of constituent discussions the last, 2 weeks really about regional housing issues and short-term rentals. So just taking a lot of data in from, the people in our district, writing down all their comments, information, so I can take them forward for action, especially as we finalize discussions on short-term rental and regional housing, and looking forward to the task force meetings here coming up. Hopefully get some resolution or at least a path forward. Would be the biggest desire there.
We'll take a path forward. I have a boatload of stuff, so I crave your indulgence. The Seismic Rehabilitation Grant Program, we're not allowed to announce the results. All I can tell you is that pretty soon $5.3 million is coming to Clatsup County as a result of those deliberations. So thanks to the community partners who went forward and made application. In terms of the county-led community water exchange process, we're continuing to do that. We've got a meeting coming up later this month, looking to have the community engaged proactively with managing freshwater, stormwater, wastewater, hoping OSU Cooperative Extension can be the repository. Wiley, you're on the call, so I'm going to bless you with that one. Hoping that OSU Cooperative Extension Service can become the eventual home of this so that it has organizational stability. We're looking at compiling a mosaic of data, gathering narratives, videos, and photographs to make it a complete experience. We're doing the annual evaluation and contract review of the community action team. So that work is going forward, which, as you'll recall, deals with housing in a tri-county area and Head Start and a variety of anti-poverty programs. AOC is engaged in a reimagining AOC, revisioning, doing strategic planning, the roadmap, the next steps for reimagining AOC. That's a long-term endeavor that's part of AOC now. Colleagues, to the extent that you have time available to be part of this, this is our collective future. Our health director talks about those systems, those communications, those relationships. That's what this is about at AOC. And to that regard, I will say, Commissioner Yamamoto from Tillamook County is forever bragging about the Working Lands and Waters Cooperative. Okay, I attended Sunday night and Monday. It's justified. I hate it. He's really got something wonderful. I mean, we've got our forestry tour. That's fabulous. We've got our fisheries tour. That's fabulous. So we went to fish hatcheries. We went to dairy farms, a confined animal feeding operation. We had people playing with cows, all right, and little kids playing on the tractors. It was amazing. We went to the Hampton Mill in Tillamook. We were out on the land that Stimson has to talk about their restoration processes. And I have 2 swag bags in my car for the commissioners who got partway there, but not all the way there. And you better grab them fast because they're really cool. You want to see me and get those. The County Solutions Advisory Committee, the CSEC, I co-chair that. And here's the reason this matters. Because we met on June 3rd, we took action to move to deal with the intersection of criminal justice and mental health, public safety, and behavioral health. Commissioner Farr is part of the CSAC group. He's also co-chair of the AOC Policy Committee. And so that's how it works, is that the AOC Policy Committee is going to receive this and respond to Commissioner Farr's advocacy to have AOC and all of the counties be engaged effectively to deal with criminal justice and those mental health issues. I mean, we've been talking about what's happened with ballot measure 110. The legislative committees are talking about it. AOC is going to be talking about it too. In regard, again, to complex systems, the membership committee of AOC met, and we're talking about how to engage in conflict transformation. And they have a consultant. I mentioned it to the county manager. He said, well, Commissioner, if your colleagues agree to spend $5,000 of Clatsup County money, then we might be able to host this absolutely wonderful facilitator, Salam Noor, who used to be the head of the Department of Education in Oregon. He's got a plan to help us learn skills and have tools to do conflict transformation. When I think about our work as county commissioners and how we can make the best use of taxpayer dollars, I think this would be an extremely valuable experience for all of us to have. So I'm going to be championing that $5,000 thing. I got to go out to Jules' school, and wasn't it just swell? Because Oregon's Kitchen Table was there, and we were talking about what are the community needs? How does the community feel? And Director Henriksen, did you do a head count of how many people were in that meeting?
Yes, we had 17.
If you know Jules, that's a lot of people in Jewel. And Planning Commissioner Farrar was out there, a bunch of community members. And we talked about accessory dwelling units. We talked about all manner of community need out there. So that's an important thing. I spent a big part of today talking with the tourism management folks down in Tillamook County, because we're going to come to a point of, I don't know if it's closure, but a certain achievement level in our land use planning and in our dealing with short-term rentals. After that, as a commissioner, I'll go on and bring back to you information about tourism management that looks about being good neighbors. They have a Hello Neighbor program in Tillamook County. And we're talking to Tillamook County, we're talking to Lincoln County. What we're going to try and do is have a regional approach to good neighbor standards that are behavioral standards that will help ease the conflicts again. Because I think we've spent a lot of time dealing with conflicts. We're looking at going forward to have good neighbors everywhere. The last thing I'll just mention is in my neighborhood, we had an E. coli outbreak. In my mind, that's an area of great public health concern. So we can talk about that later. That's my report. Thank you for your time and attention. County Manager, could you make a report now, please?
Yes, Chair Thompson, members of the board, thank you. So the county fair is August 2nd through the 6th. And so put it on your calendars. Another date placeholder is for a volunteer recognition, which will be Friday, June 17th. And that's at 3:30 in the afternoon at the Beacon House in Seaside. And that is the occasion that we will also be recognizing Margot for her amazing work and contributions over the last 16 months. And then the final thing is just a reminder for your board that there is a jail inspection scheduled for Monday, June 13th at 3:00 p.m. So, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sorry, I can't make that report. Okay, we are now then about to engage in item 10 on your agenda, public hearing and adoption of the fiscal year 2023 county budget, page 179. Staff report.
Go ahead, Jennifer. Thank you, Commissioner. So we'll start with the countywide budget. At its meeting on May 12th, 2022, the Clatsup County Budget Committee approved the county's 22-23 annual budget. The board will need to now allow for a hearing to receive public comments. Following public comments, staff is asking for the board to formally adopt the county's budget in compliance with local budget law. I want to make one note here. The numbers I'm going to list off throughout this summary have changed slightly just due to a project that was brought to staff after this agenda was already completed. And that was for the jail fiber optic project that was currently budgeted in the 21-22 year, but we're going to be moving it to the 22-23 year. So with that, the resolution in order adopts the 22-23 county budget of $100,325,980,000, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided in the approved budget at the rate of 1.5338 per $1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsup County for operations, and at the rate of 0.07 per 1,000 of assessed value for a local option levy, and levies bonded debt in the amount of $1,188,500 and makes appropriations in accordance with the Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee with the exception of the following adjustments that staff are proposing as described within the limitations of ORS 294.456. So of that, staff are proposing an increase of $880,660 for transfers to other funds in the general fund. This is a decrease to the transfer to special projects, and that's in efforts to get rid of the unappropriated fund balance and decrease the contingency within special projects and have all of the general fund reserves in one location, the general fund stabilization fund. In addition, staff are proposing an increase of $1,151,410 in the general fund stabilization fund. And this is due to the increased transfer or the decrease to special projects and the increase into the general fund stabilization. This also removes the $1 million transfer to the bond and UAL reserve fund. And that's all in efforts to increase the general fund reserves. Staff are also requesting to decrease the capital projects fund by $957,160. That includes an increase of $50,000 for that fiber optic project that I just mentioned. And the decrease is overall from the decreased transfer from general fund to decrease the contingency and the unappropriated fund balance. And finally, a decrease of $1 million in the bond and UAL fund. This decrease is due to the removal of the $1 million transfer from the general fund stabilization. With the adjustments that I just described, this increases the general fund reserves by $1,904,160 from the approved budget, and that increases it from 23% of operating expenditures to 28%. If the board wants to make additional adjustments to the budget, the resolution will be revised accordingly. Oregon budget law limits governing bodies to increase in approved budget expenditures to $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. And adoption of this resolution represents the board's final action in the annual budget process. Any questions?
Any questions for our finance director? I don't see any. There's the county manager, please.
Thank you, Chair Thompson, members of the board. I just wanted to give just a little bit of a general explanation for some of these changes. As we talked about during the initial budget committee meetings, we are, budgeting for what might happen anywhere between, a month now up to 13 months as we get to the end of the next fiscal year. And we will be introducing some additional steps to our budget process as we move forward, which means, reconvening the budget committee in the summer and having kind of a prospective budget that would look at the 23-24 year, so that the budget committee and the board go into the budget process, with all the information that they need. And so there's a number of adjustments. The adjustments that Jennifer just explained, a number of them are just to increase our fund balance position as we go into the next year, and to do what we've heard from the board is to consolidate some of those fund balances into a location that are easily viewed and are transparent. So, budget process and are very iterative. And so we will be adjusting ours as we move forward. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Any questions for the county manager in this regard? Any comments? Commissioner Bangs.
I just have a comment of that I appreciate the increased effort of meeting with the board and the budget committee this summer, really allowing us to dig into the process and further, understand or ask questions when we're not so pressed to a time frame. I just appreciate that additional effort for public transparency, and it has made me comfortable, or more comfortable than what I was previously. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Glad to hear it. Everything I hear sounds like a cleaner, clearer, more relaxed process. After listening particularly to the health director's report, we have been so focused on dealing with public health issues. Everything else has moved back a little bit, but the work of staff is prodigious in every regard. And I think there's a great deal of trust among commissioners and for the staff. And this is just a way to make that more clearly articulated. So I'm grateful for all those efforts. Any other comments? Any questions? All right, then. So now I have to open a public hearing, right? Or did I do that? Did I do that? Help me remember. I'll tell you, it's really very different to listen to it than to read the script and track what's going on in the meeting, friends. So if this comes to you, commissioners, get ready for it.
Yes, Commissioner, you will have to open up the.
Okay, so we had the staff report. So now it's time to open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
No, there are not.
So no one wants to speak on the budget. That's fine. So we don't need a response by staff. We don't need discussion, but we are now looking for a motion, please.
I would make a motion. I would move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 22-23 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, levying for bond debt, and making appropriations for Clatsup County as approved by the budget committee with board requests as well as the staff recommended changes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Bangs. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Nay. That passes. Okay. Let's move then on to item 11, the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2022-23 budget for Clatsup County 4-H and Extension Special District. That's page 187 of our budget.
Thank you. At its meeting on May 4th, 2022, the Clatsup County 4-H and Extension Special Service District Budget Committee approved the district's 22-23 annual budget. The board will need to now allow for a public hearing to receive public comment. Following public comment, staff is asking the board to formally adopt the Clatsup County 4-H and Extension Special District Budget in accordance with local budget law. The attached resolution and order adopts the 22-23 Clatsup County 4-H and Extension Service District budget of $703,870, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 0.0534 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsup County, and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee. If the board wants to make additional adjustments to the budget, the resolution will be revised accordingly. Oregon budget law limits governing bodies to increase in approved budget expenditures to 5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. Adoption of this resolution represents the board's final action in the annual budget process. Any questions?
I don't see any questions on this one. All right, I'll now open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak on the matter of the fiscal budget for County 4-H and Extension Service District?
No, there are not.
All right, then. So there's no one who needs to speak. All right, I'm going to close the public hearing. Is there a motion then, please?
I can move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2022-23 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsup County 4-H and Extension Special Service District budget as approved by the Budget Committee with staff recommended changes.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Webb, did you second that?
It was Toyoka, second.
Oh, that's Toyoka. Well, thank you. You just help me. I'll figure it out. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, please say nay. That budget pass. All right, then, item 12 on our agenda, the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2022-23 budget for Clatsup County Rural Law Enforcement District, page 191 of our budget.
Okay, at its meeting on May 4th, 2022, the Clatsup County Rural Law Enforcement District Budget Committee approved the district's 22-23 annual budget. The board will need to now allow for a hearing and receive public comments. Following public comments, staff is asking the board to formally adopt the Clatsup County Rural Law Enforcement District budget in accordance with local budget law. The attached resolution and order adopts the 22-23 Clatsup County Rural Law Enforcement District budget in the amount of $4,707,560, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for in the approved budget at the rate of 0.7195 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsup County, and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee. If the board wants to make additional adjustments to the budget, the resolution and order will be revised accordingly. Oregon budget law limits governing bodies to increase in to provide increases in the approved budget expenditures by $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. Adoption of the resolution represents the board's final action in the annual budget process. Any questions?
I don't see any questions. All right, then, I'll open the public hearing. Clerk of the board.
There is a question.
There is
Commissioner Toyoka.
Commissioner Toyoka. Thank you. All right, come on.
Thank you. I guess question more for Jennifer or County Manager. We talked briefly about our transit room tax, the percentages. Is there any avenue of, getting some more, eking into that 70% marketing to help for budgetary reasons for, from that transit room tax for rural law? Is there any avenue forward on that?
Chair Thompson, members of the board, Commissioner Toyoka, that's something that we are working on right now with PacWest and with some of the other highly impacted tourist counties. And so we are talking about some research of going in to try to really quantify what what the high impact counties are experiencing in terms of infrastructure impact, which would include public safety. And then once that's done, then that will then hopefully provide a basis for us having conversations with the legislature about modifications to the percentages in the formula. And obviously for the high impact counties, we would like to have more flexibility. And so yes, there is a lot of work going into that behind the scenes, and we hope to have a more public facing impact soon. So.
Commissioner Toyoka, thank you for raising that issue. We've referred to it fairly often in our previous deliberations, but this ties it on the record to our budget process. Nicely done. Any other points, any other questions? All right, now we can open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak on the County Rural Law Enforcement District budget?
No, there are not.
All right, fine. So then we'll close the hearing. Looking for a motion then.
I would like to move that the board approve a resolution adopting the budget for the 22-23 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for the Clatsup County Rural Laws District Enforcement District as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
Second.
Thank you. Made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Anyone opposed, please say nay. All right, that passes. On to item 13, which is the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2022-23 budget for Clatsup County Road District Number 1, page 195 of our budget.
Okay, at its meeting on May 4th, 2022, the Clatsup County Road District Number 1 Budget Committee approved the district's 22-23 annual budget. The board will need to now allow for a public hearing to receive public comments. Following public comments, staff is asking the board to formally adopt the Clatsup County Road District Number 1 budget in accordance with local budget law. The attached resolution and order adopts the 2022-23 Clatsup County Road District Number 1 budget of $4,042,220, imposes and categorizes the taxes provided for at the rate of 1.0175 per 1,000 of assessed value of all taxable property within Clatsup County and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the Budget Committee. If the board wants to adjust the budget, the resolution will be revised accordingly. Oregon budget law limits governing bodies to increases in approved budget expenditures to $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. Adoption of this resolution represents the board's final action in the annual budget process. Any questions?
Looking for questions carefully, not seeing any. All right, then I'll close the public hearing. Looking for a motion, please.
You need to open the public hearing. I apologize.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't open it. Doggone it. All right, first I open the public hearing. You know what? This is more fun than you ever want to have. All right, so we open the public hearing. So clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak on the matter of the road districts?
No, there are not.
Okay, since I opened it, now I can close it because there are no hearings. Now I'm looking for that.
Okay, I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2022-23 by organizational unit, imposing taxes, categorizing taxes, and making appropriations for Clatsup County Road District Number 1 as approved by the Budget Committee or as revised by the board.
And a second, please. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Somebody. Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. There's a second. So now all those in favor of approving the road district budget, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Nay. All right, the road district board. The road district budget passes. Okay, so now we're on item 14. We are on the public hearing and adoption of fiscal year 2022-23 budget for Westport Sewer Service District, page 199 of our budget.
Thank you. At its meeting on May 4th, 2022, the Westport Sewer Service District Budget Committee approved the district's 2022-23 annual budget. The board will need to now allow for a hearing to receive public comments. Following public comments, staff is asking the board to formally adopt the Clatsup County Westport Sewer Service District budget in accordance with local budget law. The attached resolution and order adopt the 2022-23 Westport Sewer Service District budget of $371,570 and makes appropriations in accordance with Oregon local budget law. It reflects the budget as approved by the budget committee with no proposed adjustments. If the board wants to adjust the budget, the resolution will be revised accordingly. Oregon budget law limits governing bodies to increases in approved budget expenditures to $5,000 or 10% of the fund, whichever is greater. Adoption of this resolution represents the board's final action in the annual budget process. Any questions?
I don't see any questions. All right, now I will open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, does anyone want to speak about the Westport Sewer Service District budget?
Nobody signed up.
Okay, fine. Then I will close the public hearing. I'm looking for a motion.
I move that the board approve the resolution adopting the budget for 2022-23 by organizational unit and making appropriations for Westport Sewer Service District as approved by the budget committee or as revised by the board.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. A second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. All those in favor of voting for the approval of the Westport Sewer Service District, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? All right, that passes. Okay, then. Phew. Our budget is passed. Good work, everybody. All right, now. Now we are going to have item 15, ordinance 22-05, short-term rental revisions to the law doc, page 204 of our board packet. The staff report, please.
Thank you, board. If Teresa could give me the ability to share my screen, please. Ordinance 22-05 deals with amendments to the Land and Water Development and Use Code to add short-term rentals as a permitted type 1 use to 16 different zoning districts. Teresa, can you allow me to share my screen, please?
I thought I did, no?
All right, now I've got it. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so a type 1 use means that when a permit is submitted, it does not require a public hearing and it does not require a public notice prior to that permit being issued. Once it is issued by assessment and taxation, we are required to send a notice to property owners within 300 feet. That includes a copy of the permit and the contact information for the short-term rental agent. The amendments that are before you this evening do not include any resource zones, which would be the exclusive farm use or EFU zone, the forestry 80 or F80 zone, and the agriculture forestry zone or AF zone. And we are prohibited under Oregon Revised Statute or ORS from allowing short-term rentals in those zones. So I just briefly wanted to give an overview of the different zones where we are proposing the amendments this evening. The rural community residential zone, which covers Miles Crossing, Jeffers Gardens, and the Westport area. The Napa Swenson Rural Community Residential Area, which is appropriately named because it covers Napa and Swenson. The Rural Service Area Single Family Residential Zone, which is in different areas throughout the county. We have some down on Highway 20 or Highway 202 at Christians Lane, Cullowhee Lake, River Point Development, and also Fishhawk Lake. The Rural Community Multifamily Residential Zone, which is limited out to the Westport area and then a little bit out in the Swenson area as well. The rural service area, multifamily residential, which is applied to the Glenwood Village development, which is on the east side of 101, just south of Camp Rylea. The rural community commercial zone, which is located in several areas throughout the county, including Westport, Miles Crossing, Jeffers Gardens. We have it along Highway 30 and Old Highway 30 out in Swenson. And then also there's a small bit of that down in the Arch Cape area. The coastal beach residential area is primarily the Surf Pines area in the Clatsup Plains. The coastal residential area, which includes Cove Beach and then several properties moving further north along 101, including around Hug Point and Arcadia Beach. The single family residential 1 zone, which there's a little bit of that located on the south part of 101 where Shannon Lane is. I believe that's just south of Arcadia Beach as well. We have some out in the Sunset Lake area, Smith Lake area, and then we also have some that are also in the Clatsup Plains area, and that's where you will primarily find that zoning designation. Neighborhood commercial zones, we have some out in Brownsmead. We have one out on Highway 202 out close to Youngs River Road where it intersects. We have a little bit out on the Clatsup Plains where Reed and Hertig is, and the new development just east of the new Dunes Estate development along Highway 101. And then there is also a small piece off of Highway 103 by Maple Ridge Road. The tourist commercial zone is primarily located around Sunset Beach. We have a very odd sliver, little triangle just south of Seaside. And then we have several different pieces along Highway 26, both east and west of Highway 53. So you'll see that Camp 18 would be an example, Elderberry Inn, the old Oni's would all be examples of where we have that tourist commercial designation. General commercial zones, there are quite a few of these scattered throughout the county. There are some in Wana and Taylorville area. There's some in the John Day area. We have some just north of the junction, and then we have some also further north up along Whiskey Road where it intersects with South Main Avenue. And then also there's a little piece in Jewel as well. And then our different residential agriculture zones, there are many of these and they're scattered throughout the county. So these maps are not quite as detailed, but basically to give you an idea with the red areas up here, we have our residential agriculture 1, 2, and 5 zones. We will also be asking to amend the R810 zone, which is a 10-acre residential agriculture zone. We have that on the books, but we actually have no properties with that zoning designation at this time. So there is not a corresponding map for that. And then I also wanted to talk briefly about the Gearheart urban growth boundary. So typically when within a city's urban growth boundary, there's the total boundary itself, and then you have the incorporated area. So you'll have an incorporated area and it's surrounded by the urban growth boundary. When a city takes something into its urban growth boundary, it's typically given a city zoning designation. So we as the county cannot go in, obviously, and amend Gearhart zoning codes. So typically our county regulations would not apply to a city unless the city consented to it. So back in 2018, when we were updating Ordinance 1801, county staff contacted the city of Gearhart, their city manager, regarding this issue of short-term rentals and operating standards, because we were beginning to hear from residents in those UGB areas of Gearhart. Gearhart's response was that their vacation rental codes did not cover the areas outside of the city boundaries that were within the urban growth boundary area. And so continuing those discussions and working with our previous county council, we did update and amend our operating standards for short-term rentals, and it now includes that Gearhart UGB area. So Ordinance 2205 is not going to affect Ordinance 1801, which is our operating standards. So those will continue to apply as you have amended those previously a couple of months ago. But we will not be going into the Gearheart zoning code and changing their zoning regulations to address short-term rentals. But I just wanted to be clear that our operating standards at this time still apply to those short-term rentals in that growth boundary. So I know that might have been clear as mud. So I'm going to pause at this point briefly just to see if there are any questions for me at this point.
I don't see any questions.
Yeah,
Oh, you do. Commissioner Webb, please.
Gail, I simply don't understand what's going on in the Gearheart UGB. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to be so dense. I just don't. I don't get it. If this area is, if I'm looking at this map correctly, is it the areas outlined in red that are unincorporated Clatsup County, but within the Gearheart UGB?
Correct.
That's okay.
Yes.
So why can't we designate zoning within a UGB?
Because we have an agreement, we have an urban growth boundary agreement with all the cities, including Gearheart. And when they have expanded their urban growth boundaries to take in these areas, they have rezoned them to a city zoning designation. So we can work with Gearheart to amend our urban growth boundary agreement with them. We did bring this up in 2018 when we started these discussions with the city of Gearheart, and other things in life came up with both the city of Gearheart and the county, and then the world in general. So that never proceeded. But the understanding that I have, and we can also see if county council has input on this as well. This is what I understood from basically our land use legal counsel, is that unless the city has consented for us to apply our rules to their urban growth boundary areas, we cannot do it. And so based on our 2018 discussions, where the city said they offered the urban growth boundaries residents the opportunity to opt into Gearhart's short-term rental ordinance, and basically were told that no, the urban growth boundary people had no interest in that. It became by default our regulations, because people then were coming to Gearheart to license a short-term rental. They couldn't do it. They came to the county. We sent them back to Gearheart because that would be typically what we would do. It would be Gearhart's jurisdiction. And that's why we started this discussion. And Gearheart basically said, we're fine with it, move forward with it. And so that was actually written into the amendments that we did back in November of 2018 to the operating standards. And it remains there to this day. So, but ultimately we do need to go back and amend our growth boundary agreement with Gearheart. Did that make it clear, or did that make it more fuzzy?
No, no, thank you very much. As usual, you've enlightened me greatly. I just didn't realize that this was an issue. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And I see a member of the public has his hand raised. This is not yet the opportunity for members of the public to speak. So I'm going to ask you to put your hand down, Mr. Lyman.
Gail, you're muted.
Yep, sorry.
I try so hard. I've been so good this week. But so our recommendation as staff is that your board conduct the first public hearing, accept public testimony this evening, and then continue this item to a second public hearing on June 22nd. And I'm happy to answer any further questions if you have any. Thank you.
Commissioner Webb.
Yes, thank you. I just have a question about kind of, are we in this interregnum about, are we still discussing the staff recommendation, which we've already had, right? I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just a little procedurally confused. This is a public hearing, so.
I haven't yet opened the public hearing. We're just asking for clarity for the staff presentation that precedes the public hearing. So if you have any questions about anything that staff said that you want to clarify, you can ask it now. And after we receive testimony, then we will have discussion of everything.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could make something clear on a challenging topic. All right, I'm now ready then to open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public who have registered to speak?
Yes, there are.
All right, 2 minutes. 2 minutes each. Can you move us through the list, please?
I believe you have a short script for public comment, or we can just remind people to please state their name and address for the record.
Sure thing. Sure thing. It isn't at that point, but absolutely. State your name and address for the record. You will be limited to 2 minutes. We ask you to honor those limits and welcome you for your testimony tonight.
Yes, Monica Wellington.
Hi there. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, Monica Wellington. My address is 38657 Northwest Harrison Road in Banks, Oregon. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for taking the extra few weeks to gather the crucial data with regard to whether or not short-term rentals in the county are significantly contributing to the housing crisis. After reviewing the well-prepared staff report on real estate transactions, it's very clear that the housing problem is not caused by allowing short-term rentals. At the beginning of the report, it clearly says that the data provided below demonstrates that there is not a correlation between the issuance of short-term rental permits and housing prices. The data illustrates that the increased housing prices have occurred and continue to occur both for short-term rental properties and non-short-term rental properties, end quote. So targeting these 177 short-term rentals in unincorporated Clatsup County, it only represents 0.07% of the available housing, which was also noted in the report. The random removal of these is virtually going to do nothing for the housing issues that the county has. And lastly, we know that the county needs affordable housing. However, in the report states on page 260 that the median household income in Clatsup County is only $57,000 and change. And based on that, an affordable monthly rental or mortgage payment would only be about $1,436. The average real market value for all homes, short-term rental or otherwise, exceeds that by several $100s per month. So it's simply not plausible to add a restriction for short-term permitting to solve the problem of housing, especially when the homes in question are less than 1% of the available market. So we would respectfully request the Board of Commissioners to approve the staff recommendations.
Let me say how precisely that was timed. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The next speaker, please.
Vivian Simone Brown.
Good evening. Vivian Simon Brown, 79028 Cove Beach Road. I was taught to be polite. I was taught to listen carefully, to speak concisely and accurately. Through this 18-month process, our friends, the Falcon Cove Beach Group, has really attempted to do that. I was also taught that if something's wrong, say so. This whole 18-month process has missed every opportunity to achieve lasting, viable, collaborative results our communities could live with. Wait, you say, how many public meetings have we had? Well, there's been a lot of meetings. We all can agree on that. But did we ever have the chance, the opportunity to share research about gateway communities and the creative ways they are choosing to work with short-term rentals? We spent way too much time on response times. Should it be 20 minutes? Should it be 30 minutes? What about traffic? But did we ever take the opportunity to discuss how many people altogether can Arch Cape or Falcon Cove Beach handle sustainably? Whether they're paying customers, full-timers, part-timers, day users, doesn't make a difference. Both of our communities appear to be at or over capacity much of the year. How long can our natural resources sustain this heavy use? Yes, we brought those topics up in our letters, but that information, that deeper discussion, never got on the table. Did we ever have the opportunity for nuanced conversations about what is a community? No. The public process forced us into you're either for or against short-term rentals. There is no way to discuss the huge differences between neighbors renting and investment companies. Yes, you chose the process. Yes, you chose the structure. You determined the outcome. However, it's not over. That's a promise. Thank you.
Thank you, Vivian. And the next speaker, please.
Charles Dice.
Charles Dice, 31. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Charles Dice, 31911 Clatsup Lane in Cove Beach. Many of us who live in Cove Beach feel betrayed by our Board of Commissioners. It seems that the commissioners are not interested in what residents in our part of the county want and what we were promised over this past several decades in the coastal residential zoning ordinance, meaning that short-term and vacation rentals were not permitted use in this zone, nor in other residential zones in the county. The commissioners are hell-bent on changing every residential zoning ordinance in the county to allow short-term rentals in every zone. Once this new ordinance is passed, then has already illegally occurred in our neighborhood, residences will be converted to commercial short-term rental or mini motel businesses by property owners and investors who can make a ton of money from their business property. No more neighbors and no more neighborhood. Why are the commissioners making such a sweeping, life-altering change to every residential zone in the county? They won't say. Is it because they or their families own short-term rentals? Is it because they own a beach home that could convert to a short-term rental, as is the case for at least one commissioner? Is it because they care more about supporting business investors who don't live in the county or even in the state? If this callous dictatorial behavior concerns you or alarms you, as it does us, then please contact your commissioner between now and the 22nd of this month and ask them why they are taking this action. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, please.
Denise or Jeff Davis.
Hi, this is Denise Davis, 79432 Ray Brown Road, Cove Beach. Thank you for another opportunity to speak about STRs in Clatsup County's residential areas. We're not here this evening to offer more arguments against STRs, which have been logically and persuasively presented to you time and time again. You've already heard references to the negative impact STRs are having in the county's local neighborhoods, including my own and all over the country. And you've learned about the limits that responsible community leaders have put into place to counter this impact. We have no illusions about your proceeding to approve this inequitable and short-sighted ordinance, despite the evidence and the many concerns presented to you. Money is a powerful motivator, often impeding common sense. We do have two requests. One, consider carefully what you're about to do. Once you realize what a huge mistake the passing of Ordinance 2205 has been, turning back will be fairly impossible. If you have been concerned about legal actions from STR owners before now, imagine the potential actions when the number of STRs has multiplied dramatically. Two, if you're intent on moving forward with this ordinance, at least place some kind of cap on the number of STR permits issued in each residential neighborhood. Why does this need to be an either-or situation? Commissioner Webb and Commissioner Thompson, We have heard you both state publicly your thoughts about STR impact on neighborhoods. We appeal to you to consider our quality of life. Surely you can find a fair way to limit the number of STR permits issued, perhaps only to owners who reside in the homes at least part of the year. In this way, some semblance of community might still be possible, and your actions will appear to be motivated not by the STR industry, but by part-time Clatsup County residents. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker, please.
Bill Smith.
Hi, this is Bill, 89858 Ocean Drive. I am very troubled by the direction we appear to be going, as communities everywhere are moving away from STRs because of the damage they do. We're moving towards that, and I want to know why. Every STR permit you issue is one less student who will be attending our schools, one less parent who will be coaching soccer or t-ball, one more home that will be bought by a consortium or a business or for someone outside the state or outside the country, strictly for profit. And that's where the money will go. From my experience dealing with the county, from the staff, and from the commissioners, I believe you do not have empathy for us. I don't believe that code enforcement is a priority, and now you're going to expand that. What hurts so much is I truly believe you don't care about homeowners like ourselves, like me. There's a quote, "The love of money is the root of all sorts of evil," and it appears that is exactly what is at the root of this action. History does not look well in leaders who choose profit over people. I pray that you do the right thing. You choose quality of life over money. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. The next speaker, please.
Nancy Chase.
Thank you. I'm Nancy Chase, 79089 Tide Avenue. I'd like to, first of all, testify in support of the proposed ordinance that's going to clarify the status of short-term rentals in residential zones. I've had a short-term rental for 30 years in the area that has historically in the North Coast been part-time vacation homes. I would like to thank staff and the board for all their work and the many meetings to help hear all voices regarding this issue. I found the data on housing in relationship to short-term rentals to be very informative, and to actually have facts versus impressions or hearsay will prove very valuable to us in solving the problems regarding affordable housing and available housing. My view as an owner of a residence is that if I have the right to rent my house for 30 days, why is it then illegal or could be illegal if I rent it for 29 days as a short-term rental? I think it's a residential property right, and I'm glad it's being clarified and put to rest by this proposed ordinance. Regarding listening to the community, I think the board has done a great job, and staff have gone far beyond what normally is expected. Out of it came the good neighbor policy, and I really think that sends us in the right direction of being good neighbors, regardless of what your status is. And again, I want to thank everybody for their time.
You're welcome.
That is the end of the public comment.
But I do see that Eliza Gallagher has her hand raised.
Yes, if I may, thank you so much. I'm sorry, I didn't know who to contact to ask to be in the queue. So I just raised my hand like a good girl.
But wait, please remember your address and your name, please.
My name is Eliza Gallagher, as it's spelled under my little face. And I actually, my address is 820 Old Portland Road in St. Helens. So I live in a different county, but I work for the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. And I'm an education and outreach specialist, and I cover Columbia, Clatsup, Tillamook, and Lincoln counties. That's the regions I cover. I want folks to know, concerned residents as well as elected officials, that I'm available to talk about fair housing laws. I would like to point to you, I don't know if you're familiar with the document written by Kirsten Ray, She's the Portland field office person from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. In volume 23, number 3 in 2021 for Cityscape, a Journal of Policy Development and Research, she published an article called Recreation Counties and Available Housing in Rural Oregon. And it shows quite a different take than what I've been hearing tonight by some people about the actual statistics for rent burdens and actual available housing versus empty vacation units. For instance, one chart, she shows that while there may be at one point 6,000 vacant units available in Clatsup County at one time, if you subtract the vacant short-term rentals, you get about 2,000 available units. So, as somebody who's understands, I got 13 seconds, what's going on as far as Astoria and homelessness and looking at rent burdens and the needs of those who can't afford to rent an STR, I hope you will read Kirsten Ray's article on recreation counties and available housing in rural Oregon. And if I could share my email address, I would love to do that. May I do that?
Should she send it to you, clerk of the board, or put it in the chat box, which is preferable?
If you'd like to email the commissioner's email at commissioners@co.clatsup.or.us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Lyman, I see that your hand is up. Tim Lyman?
Yes, sorry, the mute button strikes again. Thank you. When I spoke here last, Tim Lyman, 33210 Sunset Beach Lane, speaking in support. Last month when I spoke before you, I hypothesized that rather than a systemic short-term rental problem, there would be a single-digit number of problem landlords and a single-digit number of ardent complainers. It's based on my assumption that there must be hundreds of complaints, because if there are only, say, 30 valid complaint calls for almost 200 rentals in a 4-year period, it's not just not a problem, it's evidence of outstanding stewardship by STR owners. Well, your data showed that there's only 30 valid complaint calls for only almost 200 rentals in a 4-year period. Further analysis showed that there's 2 ardent complainers, one of whom has made arguably numerous false reports, and only 1 real potential problem property. I know that some people think that limiting short-term rentals will make housing more affordable. That's simply not true. The problem is that Clatsup County's population increases faster than the supply of buildable land and therefore housing. To even stabilize housing prices, let alone decrease them, you must increase buildable land or decrease population. As of 2019, there were 17,161 single-family residents in Clatsup County. Adding 100, assuming half of STR owners would sell if regulated out of business, would have 0 impact, especially because most of those STRs are not workforce housing. They're too expensive. Population is going to continue to increase. If you want to stabilize or decrease housing prices, you're going to have to make some very tough and very unpopular decisions regarding raw land use. And frankly, SB 100 may preclude you from exercising that authority. There may truly be nothing you can do. I do have some ideas that I would like to discuss at a future date, however. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Feel free to submit those to that commissioner email address. I see that Mark Tolan, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Mark Tolan, 524 North Roosevelt in Seaside, Oregon. I was part of the presentation that the Chamber of Commerce did earlier in the year that mimicked the data that you came up with on the county level. I wanted to tell you how impressed I am. I mean, so impressed at the deep dive you did looking at this issue. It's rare. It's really rare, and we watch this as an industry across the nation. It's rare to see a group of individuals take as much of a thoughtful approach to the data and to the mindfulness of how our communities work. And also, and I just want to say thank you. You really, really, really impressed with you, and also on behalf of Northwest vacation rental managers professionals, which I sit on the board. We applaud the work that you're doing and ask that you continue to keep a balanced approach on this. Empty homes do not provide values to a community. And when you have a home that's used seasonally, which is often the case, there's a lot of downside to that versus having people that are coming and spending money in our rural areas. And the overall economic impact from the good work that you're doing will be felt throughout. That I think is far much more benefit than the idea of these homes sitting empty. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who hasn't spoken who wants to be heard on this issue? If you need 2 minutes, we're happy to let you have that. Okay. All right then. So then I guess it's time to close the hearing. Staff, do you have a response to the information, the testimony that's been provided?
No response to any testimony. I did want the board to be aware that any written comments we have received are on our webpage on our calendar page for tonight's agenda, and they will be part of the record.
Okay. Okay, so any comments are on the webpage will be part of the agenda, so they'll be part of the public record. Okay, so colleagues, let's talk now. Let's have our discussion now. Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you. A lot of the testimony that was provided, as Gail Henderson has alluded to, was forwarded to us as commissioners, and it's on the website. Fortunately, I was able to read a lot of that prior to the meeting. But the biggest thing I want to bring out of this is I've had a lot of great discussions on all facets of short-term rental with constituents, especially in my district. There are those who are vehemently opposed, and there are those who are passionately for. You know, that's the end of the spectrum. The vast majority I talk to are in that middle spectrum where they're not, for or against, but they do have concerns about our code enforcement. That's the overriding thing I've noticed in all my communication is the code enforcement of the short-term rentals is something we need to pay more attention to. Some of the possible solutions for it via, I've had great email and telephone and personal contact. There are, from technology wise, there's, short-term rental compliance and monitoring software is available that would help us in our pursuit of, code compliance. Unincorporated Clatsup County, we had 160 some short-term rentals in unincorporated. And yes, that would be falling right into the technology area where we could use some code enforcement monitoring through greater use of technology.
Pardon me, someone isn't muted. Could you please mute? We're hearing you walk.
Thank you. Not me walk.
Yeah.
Like I said, overriding principle is that code enforcement is the largest area of concern of the people I had discussions with since I was elected and started talking about short-term rentals. It's been a topic since I got elected in this office. Again, there are people, very much opposed to it, very much, and there are some who are very much for short-term rental, but, I don't think the major concern was not zoning, was not, affordability. It was these, there are complaints, there are compliance issues we must attend to. And I think as a board, we have to look at that very closely. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Commissioner Webb.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I think that my biggest concern with this ordinance as it is presently written is not my biggest, but my two biggest concerns are that, first of all, I've been a land use planner in 5 states for nigh on to half a century. And I find the rural zoning maps in Clatsup County to be about as confusing as in any place I have ever practiced my science. I've never seen rural areas where zoning districts were often as small as they are in Clatsup County. Part of that, of course, is a function of the fact that 80% of our landscape is in forestry. But it's very difficult, I think, to construct a zoning code that is specific to zoning classifications when there are so many of them in our code. So I think it's a difficult way to make the zoning policy. Secondly, I am extremely concerned that there is no consideration about capping the number of short-term rentals in different zoning areas. I don't know anybody who wants to see unlimited STRs in any neighborhood. It's a quality of life issue, and it's a very heavily impactful quality of life issue. I would rather, and I think there is some research done on, and we can look at actually at other coastal counties for some insight into this issue. But almost everyone agrees that there should be some kind of a cap in order to maintain the livability and the residential integrity of the zone. And I'm very disappointed that we haven't been able to come up with any of those caps among any of these recommendations. I think I have said before that I wish that we could, I would like very much for us to simply withdraw consideration of 2205 as it's presently written. I would like to see us return to our area plans, to the places in the county that have been designated as kind of extended communities in and of themselves. The Jeffers Gardens area is entirely different from the Brownsmead area, which is entirely different from Swenson and Napa. And I think that to maintain the integrity of our zoning code and especially of our comp plan, that we need to be talking about individual geographic areas within the county. I'd also like to reiterate my concern that in the gated communities, which have HOAs in Clatsup County, I have received many concerns on the part of homeowners who wanted to limit STRs in their gated communities, but didn't feel they had the HOA votes, which sometimes are 60%. And they didn't feel they had the votes to do it. So they wanted the county to kind of come in and be the bad guy for them. And I can appreciate that, but I think it's a very different consideration in Clatsup Plains than it is in Brownsmead. And I believe that I think that the present 2205 to me it's not even a compromise. I think it's just not the direction that we should be going in when we talk about zoning in rural places in Clatsup County. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Bangs?
So it's been an 18-month discussion regarding STRs, and for commissioners prior to me being here, it was a discussion for them since 2018. From all understanding that I have of this particular topic, these ordinance changes are not a sweeping change to how STRs are operating on our landscape currently. This basically makes the 177 or 160 some odd STRs actually allowed to operate when they've been basically allowed to operate up until this point. So this would allow, in essence, the STRs in my region, the people that have reached out to me and discussed their basically their retirement or how they're paying their bills, to continue to operate as status quo in the future, as long as they can continue to get their permit approved every 2 years, like we have recently discussed in our good neighbor policy. I personally feel like that every property owner has equal rights to use their property as they see fit within the realm of the state of Oregon, and those ordinances that and the rules that are put forth before us by the state of Oregon. And we have offered and researched incorporation for the community that is of the main concern, I guess, here tonight. There are multiple avenues, as Commissioner Webb has stated, through homeowners associations within gated communities that would further control the potential of a short-term rental in their community. Our municipalities have their own personal rules regarding properties within the municipality or the urban growth boundary. And so I feel like at this point, I really would like to allow that good neighbor ordinance that we've recently, most recently bolstered and passed, to have the opportunity to take effect. I appreciate Commissioner Toyoka's reminder to all of us regarding code enforcement. That policy or that ordinance is nothing without code enforcement. And so I would love to see that for us to take a very hard look at that. I can appreciate Mr. Lehman's isolation of the actual number of complaints that we've received in a 4-year period of time in regards to STRs. I greatly appreciate the deep dive that staff did regarding the potential impact that an STR has within our community. But I will further circle back to the fact that I want to support the people that would live within my district and who have reached out to me out of fear that we would somehow remove their livelihood from them in this process. And I circle back to those issues of take that we would be facing if we didn't proceed. And so I move to conduct the first reading of ordinance 2020-22, the first ordinance, the first reading, oh, bless America. I move to conduct the first reading of ordinance 2205 and continue the matter until June 22nd, 2022. Will that suffice, County Council?
Yes, if you were waiting for a voice instead of a nod, yes.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would second that motion.
Commissioner Toyoka, you seconded the motion. Hey, I didn't get a chance to talk.
Yeah.
It's okay. But now that the motion has been made and seconded, I will ask for that consideration. Here's what I'll tell you. I heard a neighbor asked to flood us with more expressions of concern. So I'm pushing 700 emails in my inbox. You know, if you want to send me another email, I'll read it because I have read every single communication to me. I have listened to neighbors on every side of the issue for hours at a time. Sometimes those were really pleasant conversations. Other times, not so much. What I see is that we are dealing with increasing urbanization. We are dealing with great population increases in the state of Oregon, particularly in the metropolitan areas, particularly Portland. And folks want to come to the beach and play. So there is increased need to look at recreation and how it impacts land use planning. We need land to build housing on. We need to look at urbanization. We need to look at environmental and economic fallout, consequences from the increased population that we have around us. There is an increasing wealth gap, and it's very interesting to me that who's on what side of the wealth gap and how they're talking about this. Because I've heard a lot about people's rights, and they're talking not only about their rights for their property, they're talking about their right to control their neighbor's property. That's legal territory that we consider very carefully. I remain convinced that we have to look at not just zoning, because we need laws, we need code compliance that is geared toward compliance. We are not looking to punish people. We are not looking to threaten or coerce people. We are looking for code compliance because we are looking to maintain human relationships. We heard our public health director talk about relationships, colleagues, neighbors. We are in a place that is geologically active. We may have a tsunami at any time. We have wildfires, we have floods, we have storms. We need to have amiable human relationships with each other as neighbors, whether we're full-time, whether we're part-time, whether we're STR operators, whether we're STR renters, whether we are day visitors. We need amiable human relationships that are supported by effective land use planning laws and code compliance that is geared toward an educated and well-behaved population. I don't know if that's too ambitious, but that's what I had to say. Commissioner Bangs.
Well, with every motion and second, we're allowed to further discussion. So I appreciate the further discussion, but I also wish to remind everybody here tonight that this is an iterative process. It's not over with this decision. It's not over with this ordinance reading. What this is a starting point or a continuation for those 160 some odd short-term rentals. And then we're going to give it a period of time for everything to settle and for the dust to settle and to let these short-term rentals continue to operate and potentially have new permits. And at that point, if we see at any point in time that things are just sliding sideways, being an iterative process, we can return to it. This is not the end all be all. This is not, as I've said in the past, this is not the hill that we have to die on. It is a moment and a decision in time that allows our current short-term rental properties to continue to operate. And I wish to give them that time to continue to operate. I wish to give them that time to then follow through with the new ordinance codes that we have written, and also give our county staff the time to really dial in code compliance and to really dial this process in. Again, it's iterative. This is not the end all be all.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. Commissioner Tayoka.
Commissioner Banks just hit it at the end there. The biggest point there is we need our staff and our community time to focus on code compliance. There must be, there has to be accountability in the process. And that is probably what is lacking at this point, is accountability in our short-term rentals. And that's what's causing a lot of the consternation is, you're not accountable and there is no consequence for for poor behavior of a renter or of a homeowner who doesn't enforce those codes. So I think that is a key issue that we must have this time to focus on, and with staff's guidance, put something concrete down that will satisfy the neighbors, the community here, that since we do have short-term rentals, we need to focus on that.
So Commissioner Toyoka, I mostly agree with what you said. I will add a third element, the neighbors themselves, because I've been talking with all of my neighbors. I've been talking with folks down in Tillamook County and Lincoln County. There are issues with neighbors as well. So everybody gets treated equally. We have a level playing field where everyone is mutually accountable. That's what I'm looking for. Commissioner Bangs, is your hand up because you want to talk or because you, okay, please.
All I'm going to say is I call previous question, which moves us back to the motion in the second.
Certainly, let's take our vote then. All those in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance 22-05, please say aye now.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. That's a 3-1 vote. So council, will you read the ordinance by title only?
Yes, and I just wanted to clarify, Chair Thompson, that it was a hold a first reading of ordinance 2205, not an adoption. So just wanted to clarify. Yes.
First reading only.
Yes.
No vote.
An ordinance adopting amendments to the Clatsup County Land and Water Development and Use Code, Article 4, zoning regulations to address short-term rentals.
Well, colleagues, well done.
Excuse me? Well done.
Would you please mute that person? Thank you. Council, I believe that's someone who's been warned before. So if you would take action, thank you. We move then to item 16, appointment to the Recreational Lands Planning and Advisory Committee, page 285 of our agenda.
Good evening, Commissioners. The Parks Department is looking for the appointment of Michael Hinton to the Recreational Lands Planning and Advisory Committee. We've had a vacancy on our committee for over a year now. Michael is a former member of our committee. He served about 15 years on our committee. He was part of our 2006 Parks Master Plan. Michael's been involved in the Seaside Parks Department down there and the Sunset Rec Department down in Seaside. He's also been on numerous other county committees. I feel he's a good fit for our committee, has a lot of background knowledge with parks and the local recreation around the county. So I just look for a motion to approve him, unless you guys have any questions of me.
Thank you. Are there any questions about this? Is there a motion then?
Yes, there is a motion. I move to appoint Michael Hinton to the Recreational Lands Planning and Advisory Committee with a term ending February 1st, 2025.
And a second, please.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Banks. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay. And thanks to Mr. Hinton for his service. I think we're delighted to have him back.
Thank you. I'll pass that on to him.
Good, good, good. All right, then, we are on to item 17. Amendment to the board rules, page 289. County Manager.
Thank you, Chair Thompson, members of the board. As part of the 21-22 board strategic plan, one of the tasks was to take a look at the board rules and to update them. Regular updates are actually part of what was contemplated when the board rules were originally adopted. And so staff went through, we added a section, which is the preamble, which just provides a little bit more context into the role and the relationships and the expectations of the board of commissioners in relation to the public staff and each other. It chronicles a little bit more about the new way we do business at the county with our meetings, because we have both hybrid and virtual meetings moving forward. And then just some other clarifications and updates. What our goal moving forward is to regularly review and update these rules with your board so that they stay current. And that's my staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Well, Commissioner Bangs.
I just want to mention that I would love to work in person here soon. I really enjoyed the strategic planning process and seeing everybody and actually being in the same room with everybody. So that's just throwing it out there.
Thank you. Commissioner Webb.
Yeah, I would just like to thank the county manager very much for this work. I think the preamble is something that could be used as the introduction to a course in local government, and I think it was beautifully done. And it's nice to go through things like this every once in a while and just kind of, clip away at the hanging chads or whatever. And so thank you very much. I think this was a great effort on the part of our staff as usual.
Thank you. I also regard it as a truing up and an articulation. It's also, as Commissioner Bang referenced in the last action, to have the first hearing of the ordinance, that we're in an iterative process here, that all that we do is based on gathering more feedback to operate in a way that improves our performance and our results. And I think this moves us forward in a very nice way. So is there a motion then to adopt the revised board rules?
I move to adopt the revised board rules.
Thank you.
Second.
I had 2 seconds at the same time, but Commissioner Bangs was out loud. So I'll give her this second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, nay? Good. We have adopted our board rules. Thank you. We're on the last item on our agenda, Amendment 1 to the strategic plan on page 327. Is that Amanda? Is she leading us through this? Or is that you?
I was seeing if Amanda was on.
Amanda, you're muted.
Yeah, did you, John, did you want me to go ahead and read the agenda item summary?
You can just go ahead and provide kind of an overview if you'd like.
Okay. So you'll see that there's an outline on the agenda item summary of how this process has gone this fiscal year for updating the strategic plan. And this will be the first amendment to the strategic plan. So there was a review in October, the first strategic planning retreat in January, the second retreat in March, and then the review of the draft, which most recently happened in May. And so with the feedback provided during that work session, I made those edits, and the attached document was the result of that meeting. And I don't know if there's anything else that John wanted to add.
No, I think, thanks, Amanda. Obviously, this is something that that your board has been actively involved in generating. And so what you have in this document is both kind of a retrospective of where we are with the 21-22 tasks, as well as projecting forward into 22-23. We're making progress in a number of your major priorities, childcare, broadband, others. But as Commissioner Thompson mentioned in a previous item, it is a plotting trajectory that we're on. Some of these are very big issues, and I think the biggest thing is that we all just continue to focus on them, work together with our partners to get to a better state. So hopefully this reflects what the board has already addressed, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any other well, here's what I want to say, because this is our second strategic plan. This is our second iteration, but and it went underground for a good long time, but now it's come up and it's blossoming. To see how it has come up from dormancy to this kind of flourishing, really, it's very inspiring. It's very hopeful. whatever we do, we want to be monitoring our performance. We want to be monitoring our results. This is the framework for it. So hooray and well done. So now then, having had that introduction, having made that comment, is there a motion to adopt Amendment 1 to the strategic plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Commissioner Webb gets that one.
I move that the Board of Commissioners adopt Amendment 1 to the strategic plan, and let's get rolling.
Thank you. And a second, please. Was that Commissioner Toyoka?
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, sir. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, then. Anyone opposed says nay, but we've all said yay. So is there anything else for the good of the order? Nothing else. Nothing else. Well, colleagues, let's see how we go forward, because all the issues we looked at tonight, none of them are done. That's the good news and the challenge. All right.